Hello, fellow Amazonians. It's David from Wanapolo here with another seller forum discussion. Today we have a post from P&D Practical Go. Prices too low. I sell several products from major brands that I buy wholesale. Sales were good, but there are so many sellers that sell for just a little more than I buy it for wholesale pricing. And there are several products there's no profit because other sellers sell it for too low a price. I don't understand how they're able to sell it for such a low price and still make a profit. Revenue calculator says that they're buying at wholesale prices but aren't making any profit. Are people able to buy products for lower than wholesale price? I don't understand. I think this is more of a question of distribution structure than selling on e-commerce. And we have clients that are distributors, and they would try to list at MSRP for their, the brands that they sell to protect their retail business. And what happens is a lot of those wholesalers like you undercut our distributors' price and they win the buy box. And the distributor would try to enforce MSRP with all the buyers, the wholesalers. But as you know, there's an incentive to win the buy box, so they cut the prices, and it makes a mess of it. And at the end, though, competition makes the consumer wins because they get lower prices. But in your case, the distributor can always undercut the wholesalers because they're higher up in the distribution chain. So, and you have to note that as a wholesaler, they give larger volume discounts based on the volume they buy. So if you're buying 10 to 20 units at a time, your prices may not be as good as someone that's buying 1,000 units at a time because they will negotiate a volume discount. So that's how a wholesaler can undercut your prices, because if they buy in volume, they buy in bulk, they get volume discount. And on top of that, as I mentioned, the distributor can also have his own account, and they could open their own separate Amazon account where they're disguised as not being a distributor, being someone else. And from there, they'll compete for the buy box as well because they have distribution prices. They have a whole layer or tier of pricing that's different from your wholesalers. And another layer that's a possibility is that something called parallel trading. And essentially is when manufacturers, they try to export to different regions. Let's say a major brand in the US selling to a distributor in England, for example. And they have a really favorable prices because their volume is probably very high, and they know they need to export it, so they have import tax in England, so they give them an even more favorable price than like a distributor in the U.S. would get the prices for. And instead of, let's say the UK distributor, instead of picking it up and exporting it from the U.S. into England, they leave a batch of inventory in the U.S. for sale. And because it was intended to go to England, they get a much better pricing. And for that, the parallel price, or they call it parallel trading because it was intended for export. They leave it in the U.S. and then they sell it, and they undercut the market in the U.S. And that's another possibility of how the distribution channel can get, I guess, corrupted or, get messy, and where all the prices are just all over the place. And being a wholesaler, it's just, you are very vulnerable to these things, and that's just the way the distribution network works. As a company gets bigger, as the distribution network gets bigger, there's a lot of gray area where people can undercut and profit from. So I hope that helps and it makes it clear. And if you found this video helpful, please do subscribe and leave a thumbs up. It takes very little effort from you, and it makes a massive impact on how YouTube ranks my content. As always, thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time.